And now, aviation weather around Alaska.
Hello, I'm National Weather Service meteorologist Peter Chan with your Alaska Aviation Weather Outlook on this Sunday, May 11th, 2025. And to set things up, this outlook is for Monday into Tuesday. As of this Sunday afternoon, we have low pressure that's lifted across the Aleutians up into the lower half of the Bering. This low is unusually deep for this time of almost mid-May. It has a central pressure that's going to bottom out just above 975 millibars, and it has a rather strong and broad wind field around it. So that's what makes it unusual, the depth. And we're also going to be watching a frontal system later this Sunday night and Monday morning pushing up along the southwest coast into the southwest interior. That front will extend into the western Gulf, up into south central, and this front will be the focus of some gusty winds, perhaps some low-level wind shear and turbulence, as well as rain in low elevations and up along the Alaska Range, Chugach Mountains. There's still maybe some wet accumulating snow, but to start out Monday morning, a broad area of IFR conditions over the central northern Bering Sea, extending up to St. Lawrence Island and along the lower Yukon coast and Nunavik Island. We also have along this front that's working its way northeastward an area of IFR conditions just along and off of the Kenai Peninsula and Kodiak Island in the western Gulf, and then still some IFR conditions along the north slope side of the eastern Brooks Range up toward Kaktovik. There's a blizzard warning that's in effect until 4 p.m. this Sunday afternoon for some stronger winds and light snow causing blizzard or near blizzard conditions. That should be letting up as we get into Monday. And then down here for later this Sunday night, but especially Monday morning into early Monday afternoon, there's a high surf advisory for the area along Kuskokwim Bay, especially Korgillingak on over toward Kipnik. Water levels could run 1 to 2 feet above the normal highest tide due to strong southeast to south winds. Monday afternoon, IFR conditions along the northern Gulf Coast, out over the northern central Bering, including areas just west there of the Seward Peninsula, St. Lawrence, Nunavik Island, out toward St. Matthew and St. Paul, that front arcing inland into the southwest interior, up into south central, so it'll be raining Anchorage Bowl, areas of south central, and then pushing off toward the east as well. Likely to see some showers develop in the Panhandle Monday night and into Tuesday morning, though not as heavy as the initial slug of precipitation coming into the southwest coast this Sunday night and Monday morning. And then on Tuesday, we find low pressure lags back toward the Bering, and we have still a broad area of IFR conditions out over the central Bering, including St. Matthew, St. Paul, on up along the YK deltas into western Bristol Bay, and then way out toward the western Aleutians. We should see more in the way of some VFR conditions by Tuesday morning along the Brooks Range, especially upper Yukon Valley with MVFR conditions from the middle Yukon through the Alaska Range, Copper River Basin, and into the northern Gulf and much of the Panhandle. And then Tuesday afternoon, we could find a pocket of IFR conditions around the Wrangell-St. Elias Mountains there near McCarthy. Also back out toward the Bering Strait, St. Lawrence, Nunavik Island westward and down into the central Aleutians for Tuesday afternoon. Pass conditions on Monday, Anaktuvik Pass, MVFR, trending VFR as we go through the afternoon and by later in the day. Adigan Pass, MVFR early, becoming VFR in the by afternoon and evening. Along the west arm of the Alaska Range, we're generally, with that frontal system and some of the precipitation, just expecting MVFR conditions, Lake Clark and Merrill, on up through Rainy Pass, Windy Pass as well. Not impossible that west arm down toward Merrill and Lake Clark there could experience a period of IFR conditions as that frontal system will be pulling right up across that region with more of a east-southeasterly flow, upslow flow ahead of it. Windy Pass looking VFR, becoming MVFR. Same thing, Isabel Pass, starting Monday morning, VFR becoming MVFR as that moisture expands north and eastward. Mentasta Pass should generally be VFR on Monday, though the south entrance and down toward the Copper River will become MVFR. And Tanita Pass will see the same trend, VFR becoming MVFR on Monday. And Portage Pass should generally be MVFR, but the east entrance and out over Prince William Sound will likely become IFR as Monday progresses. And then Chilkoot and White, VFR conditions, Monday morning becoming MVFR during the afternoon and evening as that next system, the front, approaches with lowering cloud heights and potential for some showers, snow and rain showers moving in there Monday night into Tuesday morning. Freezing level at the surface runs out across the northern Bering just south between, I should say, St. Matthew, St. Paul, coming back up to Norton Sound and then pushing up into areas of the western interior and then also up through the Matsu Valley, Kenai Peninsula, and along just inland from the northern Gulf Coast into the northern Panhandle. Notice the bump in freezing levels aloft. Clearly, with the low pressure sitting out here in the central Bering, we have this occluded front that's going to advance north and eastward. Along and ahead of that front, we find freezing levels aloft rising 6,000 and 8,000 feet there across the northern part of the Alaska Peninsula into Kodiak Island, and finally down in the North Pacific, we have freezing levels aloft at and above 10,000 feet. Now, with the precipitation potential around this particular front, we have the low here wrap around because it's occluded. We have the occluded front arcing out ahead of it, so any precipitation within here, there could be icing in the clouds that are producing this precipitation. Moderate icing above 10,000 feet in the lower Gulf, above 8,000 feet along the Gulf Coast, above 6,000 feet up toward the Alaska Range and back here into the North Bering, above 4,000 feet with the wraparound moisture coming in south of the low circulation, above 6,000 feet there in the lower and southeast part of the Bering Sea. Upper level jet stream winds are notable in that we can see that circulation of the upper low out over the central Bering. Head of that, westerly winds upwards of 95 to 105 knots spreading across eastern Aleutians out into the Pacific and western Gulf. And then we find northwest winds, northwest Canada dropping northerly there to just west of Vancouver Island in excess of 100 knots. At 9,000 feet or 700 millibars, the mid-level low circulation is clearly evident there out over the central Bering with enhanced area 50-plus knot winds on the northwest quadrant, as well as south across the central eastern Aleutians up into the southern portion of the Alaska Peninsula. And then we have another area just skirting south of the Gulf with winds of 45 to 50 knots in the North Pacific. And then finally, 3,000 feet, clearly you can see that low circulation over the central Bering Sea with a pretty strong belt of winds south of the circulation, south of the low center over the lower Bering and along and just north of the Aleutian and at least southern part of the Alaska Peninsula, 50 to locally as high as 60 knots. And we also have some winds coming in off the Lisburn Peninsula, just on the west end of the Brooks Range, as high as 30 to 40 knots. So the greatest threat for turbulence and potentially low-level wind shear will be with this occluded front as it expands northeastward and eastward into the Gulf. There will be rain around it in the lower elevations and at sea level. There will be snow in like the Alaska Range and any of the mountains. You get up above freezing levels there, above especially 6,000 feet. And we find a broad area of moderate turbulence likely from the Seward Peninsula, Norton Sound, St. Lawrence Island, down through St. Matthew, St. Paul, the YK Deltas into Bristol Bay, and then all from Lake Iliamna and Kodiak Island, southwestward, all the way down the Alaska Peninsula, back through the Aleutian chain. And there could be some isolated moderate turbulence around Prince of Wales Island, surface to 6,000 feet on Monday, as well as that little bit coming in off of, again, the west end of the Brooks Range up around the Lisburn Peninsula.